On August 9th, 2016, Manchester United signed Paul Pogba from Juventus for £89 million, smashing the world transfer record and turning Pogba into a worldwide trend. It's hard to say who was more excited, as Manchester United fans, Stormzy, Juve directors and Sky Sport presenters whipped themselves into a frenzy. But behind all of this was one person who was more pleased than all of them. He speaks 7 languages, he dresses like a Neapolitan gangster, and he named his company after the film Jerry Maguire. Meet Mino Raiola, the man who made £24 million off Paul Pogba. The story begins on November the 4th, 1967 in southern Italy, where Carmine Raiola was born, shortly before moving to the small Dutch city of Haarlem, where his parents opened a pizzeria. Like any traditional family business, Raiola got involved from a young age, helping wherever he could, from cleaning dishes at the back to serving customers at the front. With his formative years spent in Holland, naturally Raiola's Dutch was better than his father's. And so, as the restaurant grew to 11 chains, it was Mino who was tasked with dealing with banks, proprietors and suppliers. And it was in dealing with those suppliers, the pizza dough, the Napoli sauce and whatever else goes on a pizza, that inspired Mino's first business. He sold a local McDonald's to a property developer, and by the age of 19, he was already a millionaire.
Show me the money!
But as much as Italian food and fast food was his business, football was his passion. Involved in the game from a young age, Raiola had been a solid youth player for local side FC Haarlem HSC before getting a role higher up in the club in a typical Raiola manner. Raiola recalled the story. The president of Haarlem came to eat with us every Friday. I was always telling him that he knew nothing about football. So, one day he takes me aside and says, "Listen, you try it." With no experience, Raiola was appointed sporting director. Personality clashes meant it didn't work out.
Get the fuck out!
But you see, this was the mid-90s, where names like Van Basten, Rijkaard and Seedorf were lighting up Italy, and frankly, Dutch players in Serie A could not have been hotter property.
Show me the money!
So it was only a matter of time before Raiola and Intermezzo were approached to help with the transfer of Dutch players to Italy. Raiola's first foray into the transfer world was helping move Dutch winger Brian Roy from Ajax to Foggia. And not only did he help with the transfer, Raiola actually moved to Foggia, helping to settle the player in and even painting his house. It was here in Foggia that Raiola would make 2 of the most important relationships of his life. The first, his wife. The second, Foggia's Czech coach, Zdeněk Zeman. After the success of Foy's move, Raiola was then hired by Dutch super agent Ron Jansen to help facilitate Dennis Bergkamp's move from Ajax to Inter Milan. Jansen was so impressed with Raiola, he took him on full-time at his company Promotion Sports. But by now, Raiola had gotten the bug.
Money!
And his entrepreneurial ways had gotten the better of him. So he photocopied all the relevant paperwork associated with the Bergkamp deal and left the company to do his own thing. Jansen never spoke to him again.
Good day!
Chapter 2, Nedved. It's dumb because they want to keep it dumb. A closed world with gigantic potential. When first getting his business off the ground, Mino had set up an interview with Torino technical director Luciano Moggi. The appointment was for 11 a.m. Always punctual, Raiola was there at 10:45. Yet half an hour later, Raiola found himself sitting amongst 25 others with no sign of Moggi. Whilst everyone around him talked amongst each other, Raiola approached the secretary, inquiring into Moggi's absence. The secretary laughed and explained, "All these people are waiting for Mr. Moggi." But of course Raiola was not everybody, so he stormed out and went on a personal mission to find Moggi. His first stop was Urbani, a restaurant in the city famous for hosting Torino players and staff. Guess who was inside, enjoying an early lunch? Raiola approached without fear.
Ma sei te, signor Moggi? Sì. Trovo che è molto maleducato chi mi ha fatto aspettare. Ma chi sei te? Lo saprai quando mi compri un giocatore, scemo.
More on that later. Not long after that, Raiola got his big break, managing to co-sign Pavel Nedved, who had just come off the back of a stirring performance for the Czech Republic at Euro 96. Raiola secured Nedved a move from little-known Sparta Prague to Lazio, where old pal Zeman was now in charge. Zeman only remained at the club 6 months, but any fears Raiola may have had about replacement coach Dino Zoff's opinion on Nedved was quickly extinguished when Zoff called Raiola.
Ma dove l'hai trovato sto Nedved? È pazzesco, è fuori da questo mondo. Fa cose che non ti aspetti neanche.
Raiola says that at that moment, he definitely understood there was a big future ahead of him. More importantly though, Raiola understood there was big money ahead of him. And this is why Nedved's next move to Juventus was a sign of Raiola's business strategy to come.
Show you the money.
In fact, when asked about the move, Raiola said, "Madonna mia, you could write a book about it." Nedved was a player who didn't like change and had settled in Rome with his family and had no interest in moving. But seeing the potential for his player and himself, Raiola felt differently. So Raiola begged Nedved.
Help me. Help you.
So secretly, behind Lazio's back, they took a private plane to Torino to possibly sign with Juve, who were now run by, you guessed it, Luciano Moggi. Raiola had his own vengeance plan for dealing with Moggi, but Moggi got the first blow, tipping off the media of Nedved's arrival, so that when Raiola and Nedved got off the plane and the paparazzi got their pics, there was no way Nedved could go back to Lazio. According to Raiola, Juve's attitude was, "You will do what we say and you will sign what we give you." But this was Mino Raiola at peak Mino Raiola, telling the shock directors, "I want Pavel to earn more than Zidane in Madrid." Juve directors laughed it off. Mino insisted, and Pavel, not wanting to be part of the hostility, signed the blank contract with no numbers in the salary section, telling Mino, "I'm going home now, and in the morning you tell me if I'm a player for Juventus or Lazio. You are my agent." The Juve directors, suddenly realising the rapport Raiola had with his player, agreed to all conditions. "Alright, we will give you X." At that point, Raiola told them, "I changed my mind. I don't want X, I want Y." Furious at the raised stakes, the Juve directors replied, "You're crazy." Raiola just told them, "Arrange it accordingly." The next day, Juve agreed on everything. Juve, big international stars and wars with presidents, was soon to become a regular feature of Raiola's day-to-day business. And if you thought Raiola's story was dramatic now, it was his next big signing that proved this was only just the beginning. Chapter 3, Zlatan. As his star began to rise at Ajax, Zlatan Ibrahimovic was on the lookout for a new agent, so he went to journalist friend Tees Sleggers for help. Tees had two suggestions. The first, the firm that represented David Beckham. The second, they were, of course, talking about Raiola, who was looking after Ibra's good friend and teammate at the time, Maxwell. Zlatan asked Maxwell to tell Raiola to offer something substantial. Maxwell passed on the message to Raiola.
Hello, Moto.
And Raiola told Maxwell, "Tell this Zlatan Ibrahimovic to go fuck himself." Ibra, born and raised in one of Sweden's toughest estates, appreciated the attitude. And so, the pair met in an upscale sushi restaurant at Amsterdam's Akura Hotel. Let's just say the pair had two very different experiences. Let's start with Zlatan's from his biography. "I put on my cool leather coat, gold watch and drove there in my Porsche. I didn't really know what to expect, probably some sort of pinstripe fella with an even bigger gold watch. But instead, Raiola rocked up in his personal uniform of jeans and a Nike t-shirt, and according to Zlatan, a belly like one of the guys in The Sopranos." Was he supposed to be an agent, that weirdo? When food came out, things got worse. Zlatan anticipated more Japanese fare. Instead, well, we got a massive spread, enough to feed 5 people, and Mino just started stuffing himself. Now on to Raiola's perspective. Noting Ibra's flashy aesthetic, Raiola laid down the law early. I looked at him and said, "Leather jacket from Gucci and a golden Rolex. You think you're a big footballer, don't you?" Zlatan replied, "Yes, I am Zlatan, the son of God. Believe me, you're nothing. You're scoring few goals in Ajax, and with your style of play, you could find a job in a circus." Then Raiola threw down his last line. "Do you want to become the best in the world, or the one who earns the most and can swan around in this kind of gear?" Raiola walked out. Zlatan wanted to play it cool as always and let Raiola wait, but admits, "I'd hardly got in my car before I started feeling antsy. I phoned him up. Listen, I don't like waiting. I want to start working with you. Alright, but if you want me to be your agent, sell your Porsche, start driving a Fiat, put your Rolex in a safe, but mainly, start training how I tell you." Zlatan, the famous rebel, known for not doing what he was told, responded, "Sure, absolutely." The next day, Zlatan came neatly dressed, handed Mino the keys for his Porsche, and asked him to sell it. Zlatan changed his attitude, and like Raiola promised, the success followed. Mino secured Zlatan a lucrative move to Juventus, and after that, another 5 moves to 5 of the biggest clubs in the world. Chapter 4, Rise of the Super Agent. Since Zlatan, Raiola has had no problem picking up the world's best. In fact, on his books, he has enough to line up a squad capable of challenging any in Europe. Almost all looked after with Raiola's signature style of ruthless controversy.
Something like go fuck yourself?
From challenging Sepp Blatter's FIFA presidency, to insulting Pep Guardiola and Liverpool nice guy Jurgen Klopp, or secretly recording the phone conversations with football directors and releasing it to the media.
Tu devi essere un po' più contento quando mi senti, capito? Certo. Io ti do I gioielli.
Raiola continues to do things his way. Yet despite all the controversy, his players only speak highly of him. as Raiola does for his players. But none more so is the method, the madness and the legacy of Raiola defined than his role with Paul Pogba. Chapter 5, Pogba. Raiola spotted Pogba in United's reserve side and was bowled over by the incredible determination and talent of the young Frenchman. Quickly, he signed up the player, telling him he was being underpaid and undervalued at United. Raiola sat down with Fergie to discuss the details of Pogba's one-year contract extension. Unfazed by Fergie's legendary status, Raiola made clear he would not back down on what he wanted for his client. Ferguson made it clear he wouldn't talk to the agent without his player being present, so Raiola demanded Pogba be dragged from the dressing room. Incredibly, they did. And while Pogba sat in the room watching the two fight, Raiola and Ferguson started negotiating. In an interview with the Financial Times, Raiola recounts how it went. "This is an offer that my chihuahuas don't sign. What do you think he needs to earn? Not that. You're a twat." From this moment on, the writing was on the wall, and not long after, Pogba left the Manchester powerhouse for Juventus. Ferguson later recalled their relationship as like oil and water before stating, "There are one or two football agents I simply do not like, and Mino Raiola is one of them." Strong words from the United legend, but 6 years later, it was the Dutch Italian who had the last laugh. As United, after signing failure after signing failure, were desperate for Pogba's services, breaking the world record fee, paying £89 million for the Frenchman, 24.1 million of which went to the twat. Fittingly off the back of this very healthy summer bonus, Raiola purchased the Miami villa of Al Capone. From washing dishes at his parents' restaurant and accumulating over £250 million in cuts from transfers and wages, Mino Raiola has become the world's most powerful agent. Whether you view him as a twat, a mafioso or a genius, there is no denying that the super agent is the most influential individual in the transfer market, and he all did it his way.